Okay, what up, perps? Y'all put your tinfoil hats on, get them all right and tight and everything. You know, you got to keep them pointy, that way it reflects the radio waves coming in trying to scan your brain. Um, Coop, why are you acting crazy tonight? Well, because maybe I am a little crazy, but let's look at something. Because you see, let's do this first, just to give everybody a little bit of a jog in their memory here. There's which I'm hiding my beautiful face right there, but let's see, because this should play. Oop, unmuted, fat boy. United States Code. Offices to combat terrorism. So let me get that out of the way. Oh, it had to be the one where the wife's calling. Domestic terrorism, or authorization of offices to monitor, analyze, investigate, and prosecute domestic terrorism. Okay, so this was a bill that I covered, one of the domestic bills, domestic terrorism bills, where they wanted to monitor, analyze, and investigate and prosecute domestic terrorists. Key words there. They want to monitor and investigate. Think Patriot Act for that. Um, so that's going to be another interesting one there. Now, if I can get out of this and shrink that back down, let's look at why I would go over such a thing. Well, you remember this, right? The FBI whistleblower, the militia violent extremists, and all the symbols, much like a bunch of stuff that I have there, and I've got more over here. Um, things like Spartan helmets and skulls and anything relating to, say, the revolution, all that stuff. So let's look at this. So Representative Jim Jordan recently had an FBI whistleblower. Let's see if I can cut to the chase on this. According to Representative Jim Jordan, FBI whistleblowers assert that they are being pressured to reclassify investigations as domestic violent extremism when not merited, and rewarded for swelling the domestic violent extremism caseload. Now, why would they do that, you ask? Well, remember that bill at the start of this, you know, the one with the phone call right there? If they say something is domestic extremist or domestic militant, something like that, well, then they can spy on it. Again, think Patriot Act. So, given what we've learned in recent years, claims that the FBI would cook the books, inflating the threat. Our ruling class tells us is driven overwhelmingly by those who disagree with its orthodoxy in order to justify a spalling crackdown. Remember Joe Biden, this whole MAGA extremist threats to the country, threats to their democracy, tinfoil hat. That bill that I started with in front of this, I think was actually two bills, and I covered another bill in front of that that was all about spying, domestic terrorism. Keep them tinfoil hats close, kids. Think they're not monitoring social media for stuff like my fat ass sitting around in a tinfoil hat? And this is a pretty cool tinfoil hat, man. For one that was made real quickly. I think I might keep it. So let's see. Was there anything else in this that I really wanted to hit? Oh yeah, they're tying everything into January 6th. They basically took one case out of January 6th and they split it into multiple cases to make it seem like this was spread across the country to inflate the numbers. Now, let's see. This is off of the FBI.gov. Um, Location. Where was it at? This was notes from this thing. Let's see. Preventing terrorist attacks from any place by any actor remains the FBI's top priority. The nature of the threat posed by terrorism, both international terrorism, domestic terrorism, continues to evolve. Here's a good quote from this one. The greatest terrorism threat to our homeland is posed by lone actors, small cells who are typically radicalized to violence online. Remember the social media monitoring, and look to attack soft targets that are with easily accessible weapons. That is another term, easily accessible weapons. Remember all the gun control they're trying to push? You guys remember the stream that I did Sunday night, basically based on propaganda. Domestic and homegrown violent extremists are often motivated and inspired by a mix of social or political, ideological, and personal grievances against their targets, and more recently have focused on accessible targets to include civilians, law enforcement, and the military. Symbols or members of the U.S. government, houses of worship, retail locations, mass public gatherings. By selecting these types of soft targets, in addition to the insular nature of their radicalization and mobilization to violence and limited discussions with others regarding their plans, lone actors present a challenge for law enforcement to work to disrupt their activities before they occur. And I'll probably end this one right here. Top domestic terrorism threat we face continues to be from DVEs, domestic violent extremists, in case you're not keeping up with the government acronyms. We categorize as racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, RMVEs. They just can't quit with the acronyms, can they? Including those who advocate for the superiority of the white race. How many times do these Democrats call anybody who disagrees with them a Nazi? While I'm sitting here listening to a black dude, hopefully the audio is coming through. Primary source of lethal attacks perpetrated by DVEs in recent years. It is important to note we have also recently seen an increase in fatal DVE attacks perpetrated by anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, specifically militia violent extremists and anarchist violent extremists. Anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists were responsible for 3 of the 4 lethal DVE attacks in 2020. Also in 2020, we saw the first lethal attack committed by an anarchist violent extremist in over 20 years. These anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists have specifically targeted law enforcement and the military, as well as institutions or members of the U.S. government. They're talking about January 6th. People who walked between the velvet ropes in the Capitol. And again, they're spreading this out to make it look like it's multiple attacks and that this is widespread. They're cooking the book so that they can spy on people. Hence the hat. So you perps have fun. We'll get back into this some more later. Keep your tinfoil hats handy. If you don't have tinfoil hats, well, do like I do, make them out of aluminum foil. But, hold on, we'll read one more thing right here. The FBI uses all tools available at its disposal to combat domestic terrorism. These efforts represent a critical part of the national strategy. I'm going to learn to talk one day for countering domestic terrorism, which was released in June 2021, which sets forth a comprehensive whole of government policy to address as many facets of domestic terrorism threat. If you disagree with your government, you are the enemy. So I'm out. Dark will be on in a little bit. I'm going to jump in his chat and hang out. Other than that, you perps take them easy. Keep them tinfoil hats handy. You're going to need them.